Have you ever stayed silent? Not because you had nothing to say, but because you knew no one would truly listen. Have you ever loved someone with all your heart, only for them to turn away as if you never existed? This video isn't about revenge, ... It's about something far more powerful: silence, growth, and rebirth from wounds no one else can see. Not all wounds bleed. Some are quiet, invisible, and you carry them alone. But you're not alone. If you've ever been betrayed, abandoned, overlooked, this message is for you. You're not weak, you're simply learning how to be strong. Quietly, do you know the most powerful response isn't to scream? It's to keep living, brightly, calmly, as if the pain never had the right to define you. In this video, I'll take you on a journey from heartbreak to healing, through the power of your silence. 1. They knew exactly what they were doing when they hurt you, and why you don't need to strike back. I want you to picture this. You're looking into the eyes of someone you trusted, someone you gave your whole heart to. They look back at you, they smile, and then they lie. They walk away. They betray you. Not because they didn't know how much you loved them. They did. They knew exactly how loyal you were. They knew you'd show up every time they needed you. They knew you were the last to give up. They knew you chose them, even when you were the one hurting. And it's precisely because they knew that they chose to hurt you. Have you ever felt that? 2. Karma doesn't rush, but it always arrives. Right place, right time. Want you to think back to someone ... Someone who hurt you. Someone who made you wonder if justice even exists. And you asked yourself, will they ever have to pay for what they did? I've heard that question hundreds of times in therapy rooms, and I once asked it myself. Years ago, let me tell you something. Karma, the law of cause and effect, doesn't strike like lightning right after someone does wrong. It doesn't come loudly. It doesn't show up while you're watching. But it comes, and when it comes, it strikes exactly where they thought they were safe. I once witnessed a man leave his family after more than 20 years chasing what he thought was freedom. Years later, I saw him again. His face was tired. His health had faded. But more than anything, there was this emptiness in his eyes. He told me, I don't know why I feel so drained. I have everything, but nothing feels enough. I didn't say a word, because I knew that was karma, not punishment, but reflection, the echo of past choices. Catching up. You see, karma doesn't need your help. Life has its own way. They may never hurt the way you did, but they'll have to live inside the very reality they once created for someone else. A life without truth, without real connection, without inner peace. And the beautiful part, you don't have to be there to see it happen. You don't need to see them fall. You don't need to hear their apology. You don't even need to know if they regret it. Because the only thing you truly need is to know that you stepped out of that cycle. You're no longer the person waiting for someone to take accountability. You don't need loud justice. You just need peace. And if today you're still asking yourself, how can they just walk away without consequences? Then I want you to remember this. Karma doesn't come early or late. It arrives exactly when someone is ready to face themselves. It's not a curse, it's truth. And the truth, no one can run from it forever. So instead of spending your time waiting for them to pay the price, spend that time healing. Let life do what life always does. And you do what you were meant to do. Live well, live deeply, live in alignment with who you really are. I've sat with hundreds of people in their 40s, 50s, People who are successful have built careers, raised families, but their hearts still shattered like it happened yesterday. They tell me, I don't understand why they did that to me. I didn't do anything wrong. And sometimes the answer is harsh. They didn't hurt you because you weren't good enough. They hurt you because you were too good, and they thought you wouldn't leave. They believed your silence was surrender. But what they never expected was this: silence isn't weakness. It's the first step back to reclaiming yourself. For mental health cannot exist if your past is still controlling your present. I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself one simple question. Am I really living in the present, or am I just reliving the past every day? I ask this because I've met so many people, successful, kind, deeply loving, but they aren't stuck in their lives. They're stuck in their minds. They carry memories of a painful word, a quiet betrayal, a door that closed without any explanation, and the years go by. But inside them, the past remains unchanged. I remember a patient of mine, a 56-year-old man, living alone after a divorce. He came to see me, complaining of insomnia, anxiety, and a lack of motivation. But the real issue wasn't sleep. It was the guilt, the unanswered questions, still sitting in him from 2 decades ago, when his wife left without a reason. You see, our bodies may age, but emotions don't recognize age. If we don't heal, the pain doesn't leave. It just hides. And it shows up in our sleep, in our heartbeat, in our blood pressure, even in our immune system. And this is what I want you to understand deeply. No one can be truly healthy if their mind is still fighting the same memory every day. You might eat clean, exercise every morning, take vitamins, meditate, go on vacations, ... But if your mind is still replaying the same old movie, what they said, what they did, how they left you, then you're not living in the present. You're carrying yesterday into today, and that will wear you down. Stoicism teaches us this one simple truth. We cannot control what happened, but we can control how we carry it. You may not be able to erase what they did, but you can choose not to carry it through the rest of your life. Try to imagine this. You're climbing a mountain. With every step, you're carrying a heavy backpack, not filled with food or water, but with anger, regret, and questions that will never have answers. Can you keep climbing? Yes, but you'll grow more tired, move more slowly, and you won't even be able to enjoy the view along the way. The mind is the same. It can only begin to heal when you dare to put some of that weight down. I'm not saying you have to forget. What I'm saying is this: don't let what you no longer control take control of your emotions, your health, or your present self-worth. The past should be a lesson, not a place you live in. You deserve a lighter life, a morning not tied, 2 old memories, a night free from the heaviness of what should have never happened. And that doesn't begin with forgiving someone else. It begins with the release you give yourself. 5. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's emotional intelligence. I know, forgiveness is easy to say, but it's one of the hardest journeys to walk, especially when the wound is still fresh and the person who caused it seems completely unaffected. Have you ever been in that situation? When someone hurt you deeply and then disappeared as if nothing ever happened. They didn't apologize. They didn't show remorse. And then people tell you, you should forgive for your own peace. And in that moment, you might think, why should I forgive someone who never even said sorry? But here's the truth. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to the one who hurt you. It's a gift you give yourself. It's not weakness. It's not letting them off the hook. It's a bold act of emotional intelligence. When you look at the wound, accept it. Learn the lesson, and then choose not to let it control the rest of your life. I remember a woman in her early 40s who came to see me and said, "I know I should forgive, but I'm scared that if I do, he'll think he won." I looked at her and said, with every bit of lived experience I could offer, forgiveness doesn't mean they've won. It means you've decided. The fight is no longer worth your energy. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve freedom. Freedom from the anger. Freedom from thinking about them every day. Freedom from imaginary conversations you'll never get to have in real life. And what is emotional intelligence, if not the ability to choose what's best for you? Even when your ego wants the opposite, you can feel angry. You can feel hurt. That's human. But when you know how to let go at the right moment, you don't lose your strength. You reclaim your power. Stoicism, the philosophy I've lived with for many years, teaches one clear truth. He who angers you controls you. The one who can trigger your rage holds power over you. So why give your emotions away to someone who no longer deserves access to your heart? You don't need to call them. You don't need to see them again. Forgiveness is not reconnection. Forgiveness doesn't mean they get to come back. Forgiveness is closing the door and throwing the key into the sea. If you're carrying anger, whether it's been years or just a few days, I invite you to try something. Take a deep breath and imagine setting that pain down, like removing a heavy stone from your back. You're not erasing it. You're just choosing not to carry it anymore. Because you deserve to live lighter. Because you weren't born to hold on to anger. You were born to protect your peace. 6. Silence isn't weakness, it's quiet strength. I used to believe I had to speak, to explain, to clarify right and wrong, to tell someone exactly how deeply they had hurt me. Have you ever felt that way? That if you don't speak up, you'll be seen as the one who lost? But time taught me something important. Not every word needs to be said to be heard, and not every battle is worth your presence. I remember once, an old friend reached out after years of silence. They told me I had changed, that I wasn't as caring or as quick to check in as I used to be. I smiled, and I didn't react, because I knew I no longer needed to justify my growth. Do you know what confuses people the most? When you no longer respond to the tactics they once used to control you. They expect you to shout. They expect you to argue. They expect you to fall back into old patterns so they can feel powerful again. But you stayed silent, not because you didn't know what to say, but because you no longer needed to say it. Stoicism, the ancient philosophy I live by, calls this the strength of self-mastery. You don't win by being louder. You win by holding your center while the world around you spins with noise. Silence, when placed with intention, is one of the most powerful languages. It says, I see this clearly, and I choose not to engage. No drama, no rage, no need to storm out, just a quiet withdrawal of energy. The wisdom to stop pouring yourself into something that drains you. You don't need to shout to prove the truth, just live it. Your success, your calm, your peace, they'll speak for you automatically and louder than any words ever could. If someone misunderstood you, if someone hurt you and walked away without a word, and you still carry hundreds of unspoken things inside your chest, ... Let me offer you something today. Be silent, but not to suppress, to set yourself free. Silence is not surrender. It is a conscious decision. And sometimes Silence is the strongest ending you can offer to something that should never have begun. 7. Don't let someone else's chaos become your own. Have you ever been around someone who, the moment they walk into the room, your energy just drops? You are fine, calm, clear-headed, but one message, one comment, one presence, and suddenly your mind is spinning. I've been there. I know that feeling all too well. There's something Stoicism taught me early on. We are not disturbed by things themselves, but by our perception of them. And that applies to people too. It's not that people make you tired, it's that you've given them the power to affect your inner world. I'm not saying you have to cut everyone off, but you have both the right and the responsibility to protect your inner peace. Don't let someone else's chaos become your 24/7 broadcast. Don't let their storm dictate your weather. Because if you're not careful, you'll start living like a sensor, easily triggered, constantly reactive. I'm not saying you have to cut off everyone who's negative, but you have the right and the responsibility to protect your mental space. Don't let someone else's chaos become a 24/7 broadcast inside your mind. Don't let their emotions steer the direction of your life. Because if you're not careful, you'll start living like a sensor, where anyone who touches you can control your state. I once had a client, a 52-year-old father, who lived with a wife that was often angry and controlling every day. He started with meditation, exercise, healthy meals, but one snide comment from her, and his whole day would spiral. Not because he was weak, but because he hadn't yet learned how to set emotional boundaries, you see. Boundaries aren't just about saying, don't do this, or don't say that. The deepest boundaries are internal, when you don't allow your mind to be pulled by someone else's emotional storm. You can be present. You can listen, you can care, but you also get to choose not to carry their emotions home, into your sleep, into your choices, into your peace. Outer chaos is part of life, but inner chaos is a choice. And you, my friend, deserve the kind of quiet where you get to set the frequency of your own soul. Remember this, people may throw stones at you, but you get to decide whether to carry those stones for the rest of your life. You can't control them, but you can absolutely learn not to let them control you. Point 8. Personal growth is the only answer you need. You've probably heard the quote, living well is the best revenge. But honestly, I don't see it as revenge. I see it as maturity, as recovery, as evolution. When someone hurts you, betrays you, leaves without explanation, your first instinct as a human being might be to fight back. You want them to see, to understand, to regret. But do you know what's even more powerful? When you no longer need them to, because you've grown beyond what they could ever reach. I had a friend who went through a bitter divorce at 48. Her husband left for a younger woman, leaving her with a mountain of questions and 2 teenage kids. She told me, I will never forgive him. I want him to see how well I'm doing without him. And I replied with something simple. Don't live to prove it to him. Live to prove to yourself that you can still bloom bright and wild, even after the storm. That's real growth. Not something you post online, not something you shout so the world can hear, but something that glows silently inside you. You don't need to upload a smiling selfie to prove you're okay. You don't need to make noise to prove you've healed. You just live true to your values, rooted in your peace and radiant in your own quiet way. When you start focusing on building your own life, your health, your mind, your work, your real relationships, you send a message without ever saying a word. I no longer live in the past. I'm building a future you're no longer part of. Want to make the person who hurt you feel regret. Don't post cryptic status updates. Don't fake happiness with pictures. Just live, truly happy, from deep within. Rooted and real, they'll see, and they'll understand, too late. But by then, you won't care anymore, because you don't need to win in their eyes. You only need to win on your own journey. 9. You don't need to prove anything. Your peace is the strongest answer. There comes a moment in life when you realize, I don't have to explain myself anymore. No need to explain why you're silent, why you didn't reply to the message, why you no longer hold on to what once broke you. Have you ever been in a relationship where you constantly had to prove something, that you deserved to be heard, that you weren't wrong, that you were worth staying for? And then, when exhaustion sets in, you go silent, not because you gave up, but because you finally understood. Anyone who truly loves you would never require you to prove your worth daily. Stoicism taught me this. Calmness is not surrender. It's the beginning of freedom. You don't have to scream to show you're in pain. You don't have to fight to prove you matter. You can simply leave the battlefield and begin living a life that no longer needs an audience. I've seen many people try to rise by clapping back, exposing, or confronting those who hurt them. But you know what? They still don't feel free. Because real peace doesn't come from others realizing you were right. It comes when you no longer need them to. I had a patient, a 61-year-old woman, divorced after over 30 years of marriage. She spent the first year post-divorce trying to make him see that he had made a mistake. But then, on a perfectly ordinary day, she said to me, I realized I no longer care if he sees. I just want peace. And I told her, that's the day you truly began to heal. Maturity is quiet. It doesn't arrive with dramatic takedowns or viral glops. It arrives when you open your eyes each morning and no longer feel like you're living to answer to someone else. When you choose to grow quietly, to love yourself with respect, to care for your mind and body as something sacred, you send out a silent message the world can't ignore. I don't need your validation. I've already validated myself. And that, is exactly what the person who hurt you never expected. They didn't think you'd go silent. They didn't think you wouldn't react. They didn't think you'd shine so brilliantly without ever saying a word. So if today you still feel like you have something to prove, pause and ask yourself, am I living to be understood by others, or to better understand myself? If you're still here, listening all the way to the end, I want you to know this: you are not alone. Every scar, every fall, every quiet moment is building a stronger version of you from the inside out. And if your journey needs a place to rest, a reminder that you are worthy of peace and inner freedom, subscribe to Life Through Stoicism, because here we don't talk about revenge, we talk about healing, about awakening, about how to live deeply, even after being deeply hurt. Thank you for being here today. See you in the next video. You see, when someone intentionally hurts you, they're not making a mistake, they're making a choice. And choices come with consequences. You don't need to seek revenge. You don't need to prove anything. Because when you choose to walk away, not in anger, but in peace, life will speak on your behalf. I've lived over 60 years, and I can say this with the calm of experience. The ones who hurt me the most never needed me to come back for justice. Life handled that by taking away what they no longer deserved to hold. And you just need to keep walking. You don't need to shout. You don't need to react. You just need to become the version of yourself they'll never be able to reach again. If you're in that season now, feeling hurt, betrayed, remember this. Your silence is not empty. It's a declaration, a turning point, a beginning. You are stronger than you think. And those who wronged you, they know exactly what they did. If this part resonates with you, stay. We're going to continue walking together through healing, emotional intelligence, and toward a quieter, steadier life. Stoicism doesn't teach you to retaliate. It teaches you to master yourself. There's one thing I've learned from years of working with people who've been deeply hurt from divorce, loss, betrayal, broken trust. We often believe revenge is how we reclaim justice. They need to know how badly they hurt me. They should feel what I felt. But the longer I live, the more I've realized, that's just the trap of emotion, and it pulls you down, not forward. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be numb. It teaches you to distinguish between instinctive reaction and intentional response. I remember a woman in her 50s who came to see me during a session. Her husband had left her after 28 years of marriage for someone younger, leaving her with 1,000 unanswered questions. She didn't scream, she didn't chase, she didn't retaliate. She asked me one thing: can I learn to be at peace again, without making him feel the pain I felt? And I told her, not only can you, that is your power. You see, calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you know how to manage what you feel, like staying steady behind the wheel in the middle of a storm. You don't stop driving just because it's raining. You continue slow, steady, balanced, and eventually you pass through. Stoicism teaches the strongest person is not the one who reacts, but the one who doesn't need to. When you can witness cruelty, betrayal, manipulation, and still remain grounded within yourself, you've already won. Victory doesn't come with applause. Victory comes with freedom in your mind. Victory is being able to sleep peacefully at night, not because you've won a fight, but because you didn't let someone else drag you down. Have you ever experienced this? When someone tries to provoke you, to push you to your limit, and instead of reacting, you choose silence. You choose to walk away, rather than walk into a battle that didn't need to happen. That's not running away, that's winning. Quietly in life, you'll encounter people who can't control themselves, people who act from impulse, from pain, from egos that haven't yet healed. But you don't have to be like that. You don't have to be the victim. You don't have to be the aggressor either. You can be the one who stands in the middle, the one who has grown, who has depth, who has learned the art of protecting their peace. If you're in that phase right now, where you feel easily triggered, easily hurt, give yourself a pause, a breath, a different choice. Remember this: calm is power, patience is strength, and letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom.